Mentioned we're here at the home of Court of Appeal Judge Martha Koome, now the JSC nominee for Chief Justice, and of course pending confirmation by the President. She is set to make history to be the first female Chief Justice. It's no small feat considering she's been in the legal fraternity for 33 years. Her profile has largely been on human rights and social justice issues, and so her presence in the judiciary, many hope, will begin to bring hope to such cases when they come to our courts. And you know, when it comes to celebrations like this, the closest friends, those who know her from a personal and a professional standpoint, came to show their support and celebrate with her. She wasn't able to speak with us this evening, of course, as she takes it all in and receives messages of congratulations from all over this country, this region as well. Allow me to introduce the former Deputy Chief Justice, Nancy Baraza, who also worked with Justice Koome at FIDA. What do you think about this moment in terms of, for Kenya, to have at least almost a female Chief Justice?
I think this is a historic moment for this country. Not just because we are getting a first female Chief Justice. We are getting a very, very competent Chief Justice for the Republic. And the country should celebrate. I think it's momentous for all of us as a country. She's competent, she's good, she's hardworking, and she's going to make a whole difference to that judiciary.
You worked with her at FIDA, and you mentioned how she breathed new life into the organization when she was elected as chairperson. What was her presence like in that space?
Mother is very passionate about social justice. She's very passionate about access to justice, and especially for the marginalized people, for the indigent women. And when we worked at FIDA, that came through very, very clearly. She goes out she reaches out for the marginalized, and her passion for access to justice for such people is very, very commendable. And she was very dynamic at FIDA, and the organization benefited a lot in that regard.
You've been at the judiciary, you know the ins and outs, how to navigate that space. How would you advise her at this point as she's looking to take the helm?
I think she should remain focused as she has been, at least from her interview. She seems to know the judiciary very well, the problems that bedevil the judiciary. I think from the reforms that have been done since 2011, after the 2010 Constitution, a lot of reforms have been done, have taken place in terms of infrastructure, in terms of just building up the judiciary. So what remains of her is to ensure that the reform programs are implemented. I think quite a lot has to do with implementation. And now the period of COVID has shown us that the judiciary needs to up its game on digitalization, on virtual court hearings. I think she should work on that. But knowing her, Martha is a very, very committed person who takes time to understand her place, and she hits the road running. I have no doubt that she's going to implement the reforms that have been started in the judiciary.
I know you've spoken to her, and you know, in this time of excitement, what did she tell you upon hearing the news?
Oh, it hasn't even sunk. She's a bit surprised, a bit overwhelmed. but she's very, very grateful to the Judicial Service Commission, to the country, that they have that confidence in her, and that they recognized what she will be able to bring to the judiciary, and they have given her this opportunity. And I do hope that Parliament will approve her, because she deserves it, she merits it, she's good for the judiciary. She's very, very competent, and I'm happy for her, and she's happy. She's looking forward, if confirmed, to serving this country the best way that she will be able to.
Most certainly. Thank you so much for your time, former DCJ Nancy Baraza. I'd also like to invite Judy Thongori, a seasoned family lawyer here in this country, and she also worked closely with Justice Martha Koome while at FIDA, and knows also the ins and outs when it comes to family law in the courts and in the halls of justice. Judy, a very exciting time. You can see the excitement.
Indeed.
Family law in this country, considering the profile that Justice Koome holds?
Thank you. Victoria, as you know, I am a family law practitioner. A great moment for us. Why? Because Justice Koome was herself a family law practitioner back in the day. So she understands the challenges that the seekers of justice in family matters have. She was also a judge in the High Court in the family division. So she also understands it from the other side. So I am hoping that she will initiate reforms and support access to justice for the family justice seekers. I can tell you this, it's always been a challenge convincing people in the position that she is in that we perhaps need more judges in the family division, and indeed more judicial officers than any other division, because like I keep saying, family and family conflict is central to everything else you do. So I am excited that finally we have a person in a place of authority that deeply, deeply understands families.
You know, this is her second stab at the position. You know, what does this say about her spirit of persistence?
Resilience, I mean, that's the person we know. I was then working at FIDA as the deputy director, as she was the chair of FIDA. It was a very difficult time, Victoria. In fact, we were just looking back and thinking how young we were. You know, we were in our 30s. But we faced mountains because it was long before the Constitution saw the light of day. But I can tell you, there was leadership right there. And in everything that we have seen from Justice Koome, in private practice, in the judiciary, at the High Court, Court of Appeal, and even now, as she braved the interview, because I can tell you, many of us opted to hide under the bed rather than face the JSA. I mean, she is courageous and she will do it. If anybody can do it, she will.
You know, as you mentioned, her being vulnerable and allowing herself to be interviewed by the panel, you know, transparency is a common theme also in her career. She agreed to be interviewed as a judge publicly and was the first one to do so. What does that say about her character as well? I
think it also speaks to integrity, a person who does not have skeletons in her cupboard. At least that's the person that I see, that she would be willing to stand up to scrutiny, serious scrutiny, sometimes not very friendly scrutiny, but she was willing to stand up to it, and she did very well. So I think that says a lot for the kind of person that we want to be sitting in the seat of the Chief Justice and leading this country. Yes.
Certainly, and you know, we can't get away from this question. It's extremely important for the women in the legal fraternity. This means a whole lot. You know, in terms of aspirations, this is cracking the glass ceiling.
It is completely. I can tell you this, Victoria. Only last week, a young lawyer in my office asked me, Judy, are women going to just remain as deputies, you know, as deputy chief justices? And I said, no, this is not over yet. So I'm very excited, and I was so happy to see the young lawyers today in my office, you know, very excited by the news. I can tell you what, I finally feel that we can tell you, the younger women, our daughters, that there's hope, that there's a chance that this country will recognize the part of the women and the important part that the woman plays and will play in leadership. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Judy, and I'll allow you to continue with the celebrations.
Thank you.
And Colleen Muthoni, as she shares her thoughts on this momentum, what it means for Martha Koome, Justice Martha Koome, to take on such a position at a time that the country is also trying to navigate through a global crisis. Muthoni, you have been walking alongside Justice Koome. What can you tell us about your experience with her and watching her closely to see her now take this position?
Well, it's an incredible thing to witness. I was an intern at FIDA when she was chair of FIDA. So, and I remember as a young girl, listening to her and hearing about FIDA and the important work that FIDA was doing around women's rights and equality of women. And so to witness the nomination of Martha Koome as Chief Justice is it's really indescribable. And another really significant thing is that, should she be approved by the National Assembly, this would mean the first constitutionally compliant Supreme Court. And frankly, the only arm of national government that would be compliant with a two-thirds gender principle, which is an incredible thing. It really is a testament to, breathing life into our Constitution and the implementation journey that we've been on as a country. So,
what would you want her to prioritize when she gets into the position?
Well, I think she had her agenda very, very clear, and I think about Justice Koome, and I think maybe that's what the Judicial Service Commission saw in a very rigorous process that we all witnessed, is, the depth and breadth of her experience, and especially with the judiciary, her case management experience, her ability to work in terms of reducing backlog, but also her ability to work with her colleagues, her leadership experience as, a representative of the Kenya Judges and Magistrates Association. So I think that her priorities are well set out. I think she has demonstrated such incredible of the institution and of legal just sort of legal reform in general, that I would be comfortable with her just taking the role. Yeah.
When we talk about justice issues, human rights, GBV was a huge problem last year because of the pandemic. When we look at such cases now coming to the courts, her presence there, what do you think that would mean in terms of how they are handled?
Well, the Supreme Court has very limited jurisdiction constitutionally, but as a leader of the third arm of government, I think that there is an important role that she has in terms of influence. The other thing that Justice Koome has been extremely passionate and very progressive about are land rights, and land is a very, very emotive issue in Kenya. So I think what we're looking at is a Chief Justice who really has people at her center, is very people-focused, who's very, very passionate about Kenya and Kenyans. And I look forward to her approval by the National Assembly.
Fantastic. Anything else you'd like to add before?
I think I'd like to say that this is a really important moment for Kenyans in general. I think one of the things that we tend to do when we have these moments, myself included, and I'm a huge champion of women's rights and women's representation, is that we tend to think that it's a moment just for women, but it's really a moment for our country as a whole when we're able to give positions to qualified, credible Kenyans. And I think Justice Martha Koome, if approved by the National Assembly, which we hope she will be, would make a phenomenal chief. I think all Kenyans are proud.
Certainly, and there is need to be proud of the historic moment that this is. Thank you so much, Muthoni, and also DCJ Nancy Baraza and Judy Thongori for your support and your thoughts at a time like this as we move into hopefully a new chapter for the Supreme Court and for the judiciary at large. Wahiga, back to you in studio.
Thank you so much. There, Victoria Rubadiri speaking to us from the Nairobi residence of Lady Justice Martha Koome, the